Hey
there, everybody. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of the UK Connection. We've got Simon Hare McBray and Steven Reid, fresh from vacation. What's going on, fellas? How are you today?
Excellent. I am delighted to be back in warm Scotland after being in really very warm Italy. But there you go. It was lovely.
You're in warm Scotland. He's in, I don't know what, Lancashire.
That's it. Back of the net. Let's go. We finished.
Keep that snippet of recording and just play it every week. Don't ever say it again.
That's right. That's going to be the intro to the show. It's going to be, that'll be it. Every week. So before we get started on our topic today, which is basically our favorite and least favorite opening bands that we've seen live between the years of, the 2000 to 2010 area, right? So lots of shows seen during that time. And before we get to our beverages, I have a very special treat here for Mr. Reid today. He's going to be very proud of me today. He's going to be very proud of me because I've got a selection of...
Oh, wow. Look at this.
They're falling all over the place.
This is like a scattering of gold dust.
Scattering of gold dust or some kind of dust. I don't know. I have saved them for you. I don't know why I saved them. I just saved them to show you that I do get stuff with hype stickers on them. I'm like, you know what? I can cut these off too. I'm not sticking them back on the CDs. I will tell you that. But if at some point you would like me to drop these in an envelope and send them to you, I don't know if you collect these things, but if you don't have the albums, they don't mean anything, right? So
I don't usually collect. I've never collected ones from albums I don't have before. But stranger things have happened. I quite
name
like
hesitant to get rid of one stranger thing. Go on, one. Just one. Stranger. I'm waiting.
I open my beer with a pig. No. Okay. Well, there's no stranger things that have ever happened. Okay.
Anyway, I'm going to continue to cut these off for the foreseeable future. We'll see how big of a collection I get, and then we'll figure out what the hell I want to do with them, right? Because
tell you what, I'll tell you what. I'm going to ask you to be as honest as I know you are. Okay, I'm going to ask you not to memorize them, and when I get these, there's going to be a pop quiz.
You know where this came from, right? They're just sitting in a pile. I'm going to put them in a little envelope, and I'll just keep adding to them.
You're going to be able to compare.
It's interesting you say that, because I was looking at some of them before, and I was like, where did this come from? Because it doesn't say anything on there that like leads you to believe what it is, right? It's just like, isn't the point of these to like kind of talk about what's inside?
I can't remember what show it was that I watched that you were on with some of the other regulars. And you read out some detail from the hype sticker and said, I didn't know that he was on this. And you all had a conversation about it. And I had to come in the comments and say, and if you'd been the hype sticker, you would never have known. Little snippets like that, you just never know. And other times are just filled with shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, Simon.
Speaking of Simon, what are you drinking today, my friend?
Well, I'm drinking a Quasar Black IPA from the Dogma Brewery, whoever they are, which recently I tried to give to my friend erroneously, and he already had it, and then he gave it me back. So it's just a black IPA, 6%. Yeah.
I've never had a Quasar. Do you have the label?
I'll show you the label, but it doesn't have a hype sticker.
It's a smart tin, though.
It's a very smart tin. I think it came from a beer club, and I've had it for ages. So today is its day in court.
See, I've just done that thing that I got in trouble for once, because I just said that's a smart tin, and I was in as we say in Scotland, in a chippy, a fish and chip shop, and I asked for, and as in Scotland you do, a tin of juice, okay, fizzy pop, soda. And the guy behind the counter said, no. He says, soup comes in tins, juice comes in cans. I said, that's fine, I'll have a tin of soup then, please. He didn't have one. true story. Anyway, moving swiftly along. Is it good, Simon?
I'll let you know in just a second because I'm sure as shit not holding up to the thing the way I
Well, you see, I poured early, and I poured early because anything that's got Guinness involved in it needs to settle. So I wasn't taking the blame for a head that was above the top of the glass. But this is a Guinness West Indies Porter, which I've had before, and it is really rather good, I have to say. And it looks just like that.
Nice.
And it is as good as it looks, I have to say. It's one of my...
West Indies Porter. Did we even get that over here?
I don't know how long it's been available here for a few years, but not, somebody's bound to correct me. It's probably been available since 1872, but I haven't seen it in the shops all that long. But it's very good, and it was a gift from my other half's father. Thank you very much indeed.
Cool. Yeah, you can't go wrong with Guinness, regardless of what it is. You know? All right, I have today from Industrial Arts Brewery in Beacon, New York, just across the Hudson River from where I live. I have a Metric. So you can see the kind of very industrial. Industrial Arts is the name of the brewery, very industrial looking can. Metric is their Pilsner. So it's a Pilsner style lager, 4.7%, crisp and herbal tradition. Crisp and herbal tradition. Yeah, whatever.
So by crisp and herbal, you mean crisp and herbal?
Yes, we say herbal here.
Yeah, we know. But
yes.
You're not currently sitting in an house, are you? That's a house.
House, yes.
There's no reason for
I'm looking at them. Sorry. I'm looking at those hexagons and I'm dying to ask for a pee, please, Bob.
Anyway.
Not a clue.
It looks good though. It looks very good, Peter. Even though we're whittling inane nonsense.
Yeah.
It looks very good.
I don't know how herbal it is, but it is crisp and refreshing. And I'm drinking it in a Pine Island Brewery glass, which sadly enough, the brewery does not exist anymore, but I have two of their glasses. And cheers, gentlemen.
That's why. Cheers. I noticed, was it the Sabbath Brewery that Pete was pimping the other week, and we were saying how much we'd wear their stuff forever? Just, it's nothing. No, there's nothing. Just, yeah, crickets.
Brewery. Yes, yes, indeed.
I'm cheap. I will pimp any beer that anyone wants to send me.
Hashtag me too.
Absolutely.
That's
unfortunately nobody sends me beer. They just ask me to pay for it. Which
oh wow.
Yeah, it is what it is. That's okay. It's a shame. It's a shame because I actually have some really interesting beers in my fridge that I hope are still there for next week's show, but we'll see. If not, I will replace, because of course I took a lot of shit last week for drinking water. I read those comments, folks. I read them. And believe me, I know how lame I was last week. So today I made sure to have some stuff available. So anyway, now that we got the beer thing out of the way, we've got some favorite opening acts from the early 2000s. Simon, kick us off with some.
Oh, are we going with favorites?
Yeah, we'll do favorites first. Yeah, we save the bad stuff for last, I guess, right?
Okay. How favorites do you want me to be? Do you want me to go through all the favorites, just a few favorites? How favorites do you want me to be?
Yeah, I don't know how many you got. Just run through them.
I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 relative favorites and 3 shitty-ish ones.
Okay, go through all your favorites. Yeah, we'll each go one round.
Well, not say favorites, but ones that I enjoyed, or occasionally my young friends, that I like to step outside the SLT paradigm.
Yes.
That is the case. And I did that in 2001. Yes, I did. And I'm not going to mention who the headliner was because I still feel we've got another You Saw Who showing us. And in 2001, Jesus, 2001. Christ on a bike, that's a long time ago. But I saw and thoroughly enjoyed Super Suave Sheffield Popsters ABC.
Oh,
yes,
nice.
Yeah. I say ABC. It was just really Martin Fry and some other people that no one's ever heard of in his gold lame suit. But wasn't expecting to enjoy them. But very much enjoyed them. Very, very good. And then earlier this week, I read something about it being 40 years since Lexicon of Love came out, and you think, shit, That's a long time ago.
It's really long.
That's a long time ago.
Yeah.
I don't know how many of their songs would I know, Simon?
Sorry?
How many of their songs would I know? I mean, they're a band that have been about most of my life. But
I would imagine only the ones off Lexicon of Love.
Look of Love.
Poison Arrow.
Oh, yes, yeah.
All of My Heart. No? Okay, see, now you're beginning to mine the depths of the catalogue. we're going deep on ABC. Yeah.
Deep meaning 98% of their entire output is pretty deep, right?
I just want to say that they were really good, thoroughly entertaining. Yeah.
Well, the little I do know, I quite like. It is quite little.
Super produced, a bit like Def Leppard. There you go. See, I brought it back into the SLT. They are an incredibly produced band. Jesus Christ, I know we were just talking about them, weren't we, before? I'm just saying, first two, second one, whoa, what did that do? Sorry, third one, whoa, that's a different sound. But anyway, let's move along, shall we? In 2005, as we know from previous shows, I went to see Bloodstock. I went to the Bloodstock Festival, the last indoor one, and people that I haven't mentioned previously, I saw Metallium, they were good.
Wow, ooh, nice.
Yeah. I saw After Forever, and they were good.
Oh, you got to see them. Yeah, I never got to see After Forever. Great band.
And how sometimes there's a band that they're like the Choir Boys. They're everything that you ever go to see for a while.
Yes.
Not the Choir Boys this time. Just saying. Yay. It's Conquest of Steel. Have you ever heard of Conquest of Steel? Just real proper straight up meat and veg heavy metal, and they've definitely heard of Judas Priest. And I just saw them quite a few times, and they were always good value. They always like pretend plastic swords, wooden swords, and stuff like that. Yeah, they quit fairly shortly after that. So yeah, and of course, importantly, Bloodstock, and I have mentioned this before, I feel it needs mentioning again. That's where I saw Uncle Bob solo. Yeah, very much so. He certainly blessed us with a performance there. Yeah, just saying. Yeah. In 2007, I saw a version of Crocus.
Oh.
That's version of. There weren't that many of them that were actually really Crocus. How do we say his surname? Mark, is it Storacci?
Storacci.
Yeah, he was there. The rest of them pretty much weren't.
He's kind of Crocus. Well, for a period he was Crocus. Yeah, so yeah, okay.
They were good, but the bass player looked a bit like, as I recall, Kane Roberts. Remember him?
Oh yeah.
I have asked Kane Roberts to move, please. Thank you. Believe it or not. He was at Firefest. He was playing at Firefest. I can't remember which one. I'd need to look at the book. He was shit, by the way. He was what was commonly known as under-rehearsed, shall we suggest. And do you know what? He was a lovely guy. I think it would be fair to suggest that he knew he was under-rehearsed coming the end of it. He padded his set out with things like women with not very much clothes on and things and all that kind of stuff. And we were on the doors at Firefest doing the balconies in the VIP area. And there was one area where you were not allowed to stand because it was a fire hazard. And Kane Roberts came and stood there. And I had to go, excuse me, Mr. Roberts, could you move, please? And he was, sure. He was lovely. He was such a nice guy. But you were like, I don't fancy this going wrong.
Is he as intimidating in person as he looks?
He wasn't as bulked up by that stage because we're only talking maybe 10, 12 years ago and about there.
Oh, yeah, I think he was done with the bodybuilding by then. Yeah.
He did a comeback album and played Firefest. And I was really looking forward to it because I love the earlier kind of cult classic albums. And he cuts an imposing figure, has to be said. So he still had charisma about him, but he wasn't the ginormous bodybuilder by that stage. No. It wasn't very good. I hate to say.
I've set you up for an anecdote though. Did you shake his hand? Did you shake his hand?
No, but I did touch his shoulder.
Oh.
I touched his shoulder because he was leaning. It was his top of a stair, a metal stair. Yeah, I touched his shoulder.
A metal stair?
Yeah. And I went out and I said, "Excuse me, Mr. Roberts," and he couldn't hear me. So I had to actually lay hands on the great man himself so that he would turn around and go, "Who the fuck are you?" But he actually turned around and just went, "You can't stand there." And he was like, it was that loud, but he did move. So yeah, didn't touch his hands, but I've had hands on the great man.
That counts.
I think so. Yeah.
It does. Certainly does. Yep. Moving along swiftly. In 2007, I saw John Jett in support of Alice Cooper.
Get in.
Half an hour of John Jett was very much the optimum amount. Everything you could ever want.
Did she hate herself for loving you?
Sorry?
Did she hate herself for loving you?
Very much so. Yeah. I quite like rock and roll. I hate that song. Fucking hell, I hate that song. Just saying, don't like that stuff. She did it. Sweet, AC/DC. Sweet. Did that. Covered that. Sure she did. Thoroughly enjoyable. Set the night up for Motorhead and the Coupe very nicely. The year afterwards, I saw Glider.
Oh yeah, liked Glider a lot. Great man.
Why did they not make it? I'm asking that question, Steven Reid, right now.
A mixture of bad timing, getting so much publicity from doing all the kind of Phil Lynott tribute shows. They got very much pigeonholed into being a Thin Lizzy ripoff. There were very much elements of Lizzy in the sound, but they were not a ripoff band in any shape or form. And the longer they went, the first albums are good, the more they kind of formed their own sound. I have a real soft spot for Glider, and I was lucky enough to be in touch with Bat Kinane, who was the kind of main guy in the band. And he's such a nice guy as well, I have to say. They really deserve much more than they ever got. So yeah, never saw them. Wow, yeah, excellent band.
Well, do you know who they were supporting, Stephen?
Thin Lizzy by any chance?
No,
who?
Fish.
What? No,
the man that I like to call your mate. Fish. Yeah.
Wow.
That's an unusual bill that has to be said,
isn't it? Blackburn KGH. So yeah, they were really good, and I became more and more perplexed as I eventually thought, well, they're not going to make it.
Mm-hmm.
They never really did. No,
yeah,
sad.
Yeah, they were one of those bands that nearly. Nah, it just didn't happen for them. Really.
So we reviewed a couple of their albums on the webzine like years ago, and I remember you reviewed one or two, Stephen. I did as well. So I mean, you may have as well too. I don't remember, but I remember like thinking these guys are pretty good. I never heard of them before. They're going to go places, and like you never heard another thing from them.
Yeah, as I say, I think they maybe got too much publicity right at the start because I think they were kind of affiliated with the Phil Lynott tribute shows and various things, and they were kind of taken under the wing of that. And it did seem it got them a lot of notice right at the very start, but not necessarily for what they were doing, which was a real shame because what they were doing was excellent. So yeah, one of the many, but one of the main ones for me of more recent times where you think they really should have been able to cross over into a much larger audience and been playing proper big halls on their own, and it's never happened.
They were on a fairly big label too for a little bit, weren't they?
Oh, I think so, but
like SPV maybe? Weren't they on SPV Records briefly?
That rings a bell. Yes, I think you're probably right with that. Yeah.
Sorry, you gave Steven Reid. You gave Back Roads to Byzantium 4.5. Well, maybe even a 3/4, at least 4.5 big stars.
Yeah, I stand by that. They're a band I still listen to regularly.
Yeah. They were really good. I'm really perplexed that they didn't make it.
Yep.
Actually, I live in the UK, so I'm not perplexed.
Yeah, that is probably the biggest problem.
That
music just gets no coverage here whatsoever. So, something special is going to happen for you to break through.
Yeah. I'm done. Move on.
Okay, Stephen, what do you got?
Well, I'm going to do things slightly out of order then. So. You'll only have to hear once from me, but it's going along. It's nothing new there, then. So the reason for that is because the noughties, I'm not going to mention anyone in this decade that was bad. And the reason for that is because this was the era of shit support bands. But they were shit for a reason. because this would seem to be at the point where there were far fewer packages going round, you know, far fewer like 3, 4, 5 band bills. I did see some, and some will come up in a bit, but most of these you tended to find that it was like a local support band that would be opening for the main band that were headlining the show. And I don't know how many bands where it would appear that what happened was they kidnapped some random guy off the street just before the show, shoved a bag on his head, pushed him out on the stage, twirled him round 3 times, took the bag off, handed him a guitar and went, "You're on." Because there was so many utterly shit support bands with a really talented guitarist that had clearly never been introduced to the people round about him. It was just some guy that could go, but everyone else would go, but at the other end of the spectrum, you saw so many people who were out on like quite a big tour with bands like Marillion and various things. And it was just one person with an acoustic guitar that basically gave you 40 minutes of one song broken into 10. And it was just the most boring thing that you'd ever heard in your entire life. And this guy or woman, because there was so many of these acts that were up there, really just talented people, boring the shit out of everybody for 40 minutes. And rather than you know, getting everyone up for the main act.
Yeah, I saw a fair amount of that too. I recall one specifically, a Uriah Heep concert where they had a singer-songwriter and acoustic guitar out there for, like you said, 40 minutes. And we were like, why is this guy on this bill? I would just don't have an opening act and have Heep play 3 more songs.
Yeah.
It just makes no sense. Anyway.
It was clearly, I mean, both of those extremes are the cheap option.
Yeah.
You know, you bring a young band in, and I'm maybe doing them a disservice because they were probably just brought in, no time for a sound check, guys. Up you go and impress all these people. You know, the biggest crowd you've ever played before in your life, you know, 25 people there. But it was that or one person, you know, probably driving their car around behind the band, coming on, not having to do sound check, not having to move equipment around, not needing any sort of roadie or whatever to do anything. So the main band could get everything ready, and then this one person would go out. And you would hear the first song and think, well, that's okay. But by the time you got to like song 4 or 5, you're like, nah, I'm having absolutely no more of this. And then
I'm done.
Another 4 or 5
looking
songs.
at your watch, you look at your phone, you're like, geez, all right, come on. That's it.
Yeah, if it was outside, they would be getting bottled by this stage, but there you go, plastic cups are not the same. So I'm not going to mention anyone specifically that wasn't great, because there was so many that were good in this decade for me. So I'm going to go back to 2000 in November, and I saw Rob Halford for the first time. So I saw Halford opening for Maiden, and it isn't often that you get to see a true, real metal god as an opening act. So, you know, and let's be honest, Rob had been what you would suggest down on his luck. Fight had started well and then frittered away. He made a bit of a twit of himself in 2, for want of a better turn of phrase. But by this stage, he was going out with the Resurrection album, and that was clearly meant to do exactly what it said at the time. And he came out and he did some fight numbers, he did some solo stuff, and then from halfway through, because he got a good whack, I think he got just under an hour, he came out and played just Priest stuff. So I'd never seen Priest at this stage. So to be hearing the right guys singing Electric Eye, Metal Gods, Tyrant, I mean, it turned into a headline set before Maiden had come out, you know, and that was really something pretty special, I have to say. He really hit the nail on the head, and from there it all went back upwards for him again before it led back to Priest.
Yeah, so are we saying that being near you set him back up upwards? Is that what we're saying?
Well, I think that certainly it sparked the inspiration, Simon, yes. I think you probably saw the enthusiasm that I had for everything Halford related to Priest. That's not fair. The Halford solo, Fight were quite good. I quite liked Fight. You know, it maybe wasn't the right vehicle for him at the time. 2 absolutely zero for me. I mean, to be fair, the way that my hair is these days, I could just paint my face white and I could join the band. Just about. But yeah, they were terrible. But the Halford albums are actually really, really good. And I would suggest, in the main, better than the Priest albums without Halford.
Yeah, I would probably say the same.
I would suggest. So yeah, that was one from 2000. Then later in the 17th of December 2000 as well, I saw, for the one and only time solo, I saw Bob Catley headline. Okay, now I got a different support act, and the support act was the real reason that I went. Now, anyone that's just watched the Magnum show will know I love a bit of Magnum, love a bit of Bob Catley, has to be said. But when Kip Winger was announced as a support act, I was beside myself. I love Winger. I love Kip Winger's solo stuff. I think it's really underrated. I think it's really misunderstood because he is a hair metal guy and all sort of stuff. But it's actually more kind of adult AOR pop progressive, I would suggest, in places. And the album Songs from the Ocean Floor was the tour that he was doing. And I was so excited. He played a venue called Strawberry Fields in Glasgow. Now, Strawberry Fields is now Ivory Blacks. So it still exists, but not under that guise. And I was so excited that I thought, I have to get tickets for this. And I could find tickets nowhere. So I phoned the venue and the guy said, you'll have no trouble getting in. An indication that his ticket sales were not really going to work. But I insisted, and I got, if you can see, I got ticket number 1 for this show. And I'm not convinced that other than me and my mate, anybody else actually got tickets, because other people in the queue just paid at the door. But the great man himself. So we're standing in the venue, facing the stage. And you know that way when you think, I can feel somebody behind me. It's Kip Winger behind me. I thought, oh man, it's Kip Winger. I went into full fanboy mode. I don't really do the fanboy thing. I'm not one for meet and greets and all that kind of thing. I really have a soft spot for Winger. Kip Winger's solo stuff is amazing. So I gave, I think you're fantastic. You're actually the reason I'm here. Bob's fantastic. He's going to be great. But you're the reason I came. And he was so polite and so gracious. And, have you come far? We've come from Perth, and that's about 60 miles away. And we've done this. We were here earlier. I got ticket number 1. Oh, Kip, could you sign my ticket for me, please? And signs my ticket, and he's talking away. But you can see him kind of desperately trying to slowly but surely extract himself from me, basically. And it wasn't until he actually said to me, he says, I'm really sorry, I've got to go over there. And he pointed to the stage. I'd never been in this venue before and had not realised that I was actually standing with my back to the dressing room door. And he had just come out to go on stage. And I turned round and the whole venue was kind of going, would this guy fucking shut up? Let him go.
Let him play, damn it.
We can actually watch him play the damn set. But he was absolutely brilliant. And to his eternal credit, he came back after the show and asked if we'd enjoyed it. And he chatted away to us and other people at the bar until Bob came on. And he hung about while Bob played his set as well. And I can report that his hands were immaculate. Immaculate, I have to say. Absolutely immaculate. For a guy that was up there playing without a pick and various things, he should have been all calloused. No. Way more care than that going on. So yeah, that I don't do fanboy moments, but I made a proper fool of myself that night.
Meanwhile, tonight you're gonna get a text from Rich Catino. He's gonna be like, "All right, how much for that ticket stub?"
No, I have to say that this is a prized possession. I have to say. Especially the fact that it has actually also got him on the ticket. I love a ticket that's got the support act on it too.
Yeah, and they don't always do that. I know.
They don't always do that, but they did on the 22nd of May in the year 2003 for when they tried to resurrect the Monsters of Rock banner. But because of the tragedies and various things that had happened at Donington before, they took it out on the road. Monsters of Rock hit the road, which was a European thing. But in the UK, we didn't do that. But realistically, here, it turned into just 3 bands on a bill under the heading Monsters of Rock. So the main band, Whitesnake, it's a good start. But the other 2 acts, the first one on were Y&T, who I had never seen before. And at that stage, this was before they realised that they could come over here and tour the UK every winter, which they now do, thankfully. And I've seen them quite a few times since. So this was the first time, and it really was one of those, I got to go because I'm going to see the support band. I'm going to see Y&T because I've never seen them before. They were fantastically good. And because they were there, and at this stage in their career, 2003, they were there to probably try and rebuild things because they got back together and they were starting to record new stuff again. So they played a set of Mean Streak, Eyes of a Stranger, Rescue Me, Dirty Girl, Summertime Girls, I Believe in You, and Forever.
Wow,
there is absolutely no fat there, is there?
no, that's good. Wow,
You know?
good set.
So I got to see them loads more, but it was the only time that I saw Leonard Hayes. And the guy was a powerhouse, a real drumming hero of mine. So that too was a real high point. But the other band on the bill was Gary Moore. And that's the only time that I saw Gary Moore. Now, this was probably the wrong time to see Gary Moore. There was no wrong time to see Gary Moore. But realistically, when you didn't want to see him was just after he'd released the Scars album, if anyone remembers that one-off kind of Scars thing that he did. And it made for quite an odd night because people were there to see Gary Moore. And on this bill, they'd anticipated that he might go back to that kind of more heavy rock, verging into heavy metal kind of thing. Kind of did, and he kind of didn't.
Scars is a weird album.
Yeah, and that was the way that it came across. It's one of the things about him that I enjoy least, and it's still okay, but it's not. To me, it's not Gary Moore, if that makes sense. But the set, I mean, he played Shape of Things by the Yardbirds. That's what he opened with. And he played Wishing Well by Free. And 2 songs in, and people were kind of like, is this guy not famous for doing, like, you know, his own material? And after Y&T, it kind of flattened things down a bit. And then he played Walking By Myself, which kind of got people back into it. And he went into Don't Believe a Word, which obviously everyone went wild for. And then he closed his main set with Out in the Fields, which is an absolute cult classic over here. Yeah. And it went down a storm. And then he came back out and closed with Parisian Walkways. Yeah. So he just about snatched victory from the jaws of defeat. I would suggest not quite, because most people were a little bit disappointed that he hadn't just done what Y&T had done. But the difference was he had a brand new product to come out and promote. But he didn't really. They played some songs from Scars, but not an awful lot. And I'm delighted. It's the only time I saw him. So I would rather have seen him in this guise than not at all. But still, it wasn't bang on what I'd have hoped for, put it that way.
Yeah, I only got to see him once too, and it was in the 80s, and I was really drunk at the time, and my girlfriend at the time was even drunker, and I spent half the night trying to deal with that. And so I really didn't see enough of his set, unfortunately. It's like,
yeah, I would love to have seen that era, because I mean, he was as good as it gets back then.
Yeah, I think it was 88 or 87, something like that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's one of those wish I can go back in time moments for me.
Yeah. But for the next one, I'm going to have to ask for Simon's forgiveness. I feel slightly dirty because I have lied to you, Simon, and you too, Peter, but probably more to Simon for a long time, a very long time. Because if we cast our minds back to one of the early shows that we did an album ranking show from a phenomenal band called Dream Evil. Okay, now, what I said to Simon and yourself, Peter, that night, I feel slightly dirty here. I feel like I've been living a lie. Because I said I'd love to see Dream Evil. Absolutely love to see that. And everybody took great pleasure in rubbing my nose in the fact that I had never seen Dream Evil. Other than the fact that I have seen Dream Evil. Because they opened for Saxon at that fabled King Tut's Wawa Hut show that I am known for going on and on. And then mentioning it at least another 10 times. So yeah, back in 2004, the band that opened for Saxon in King Tut's Wawa Hut was an unknown band to me called Dream Evil, who were so good that I actually bought In the Book of Heavy Metal at the gig. And it's not until I read my gig list and saw their name in it that I went, oh yeah, I've seen them.
They were that memorable, I guess, right?
They were, though. That's the thing. It's not until that light bulb went on and showed just how dim I am normally that I went, wow, yeah, they were great. I genuinely came home with a Saxon shirt and a Dream Evil CD because I wanted something by both bands, because both bands had been so good. That admittedly, for the next, whatever it is, what's that, 18 years, I appear to have forgotten that until I looked and did some research for this show. So I'm not an intentional liar, but I'm a liar nonetheless.
Simon is absolutely devastated.
Probably not as devastated as I am to have to admit it.
I thought we were friends. I just really I'm deleting you. I'm blocking you on Twitter now.
There's going to be a flurry of them after the show.
The Dream Evil Lie. Yeah, you've heard of the Big Lie? Well, this is the Dream Evil Lie, right?
Well, that's the title for this episode, isn't it? Dream Evil Lie.
Oh boy!
You know, I could just have risen above it and just never mentioned it.
You could have,
but you didn't.
You would have never known. But you know, the crazy thing is, we might have never known, but I bet you there's someone out there watching. We're like, wait a second, that's not what he said on the Dream Evil episode a year ago, right, or whatever, right? Yes, because people have really good memories. I have found who watch this channel.
Yeah, so I thought better to be really right up front about it and admit my complete idiocy and all of my inadequacies. Will I continue, Simon, or no? Would you like me to leave now?
I just couldn't care less what you do. I'm not angry. I'm not angry.
Disappointed.
Disappointed, yeah.
But Simon, we gotta cut him a break because he did come clean. There's something to be said about that. Come on, Simon, we can do it. We can do it. Just this once.
I'll move on. It's okay. I'll move on.
Just give me a minute. Speak.
All right, Steven, we forgive you. We forgive you. We forgive you.
Yes, well, notice
he forgives you. He does.
Yes, out of the two other people on the screen here, one said that we forgive you, but that's fine. It's fine. It's okay. It's fine. So on the 23rd of March in 2006, at the Glasgow Cat House, I saw the Wild Harps. I'm quite known for seeing the Wild Harps.
Yeah.
I also saw a gentleman called Tim Smith. Now, for those in the know, Tim Smith basically was the main guy in the Cardiacs. Now, to me, this was my first contact with Cardiacs music. So it was Tim Smith. It wasn't billed as the Cardiacs. It was billed as Tim Smith and his big bass drum. But the excitement for, I know. You need to go back and watch myself and Chuck doing the album ranking show to understand they love song titles that do, and then they do with the thing that does the thing. They really like to do that. So don't worry. So the draw here was, well, the Cardiacs are a legendary cult band, but his backing band that day, and apologies to whoever was in drums because I actually don't know who played drums with them, but the backing band was Random John Poole, who was the Cardiacs bassist and was currently in Ginger Wildharp's band, and Ginger Wildharp. That was his backing band for the show. So they came out and opened for themselves as such. But it was a really strange aesthetic because Tim Smith was already a little bit unwell by this stage, and he was a bigger gentleman, and he sat on a chair in the middle of the stage. But it was his show, and it was in the nicest possible way all about him, not his ego. I just mean that the other guys wanted it to be all about him. That's why they were being his backing band. So they basically just stood still the whole show, which was obviously the shtick they were doing. But man, oh man, it was effective. But I will be honest and say that I did not get it. The Cardiacs is so in your face. It's so uncompromising. It's progressive. It's technical. It's catchy. It's annoying. It's so many different things, all doing that. But in the days to come, I found myself consistently going back and humming riffs and sections. I thought to myself, I have to go and listen to this band to see if what sort of effect this has had on me. And I bought a couple of Cardiacs albums and was kind of, wow, they're absolutely amazing. And it was funny how it made no sense at all, but within days, it made all the sense. And it really was one of those gigs that you walked away from at the time. I think a lot of people were confused because they kind of had expected, well, Ginger and Random John Poole are on stage here. It's obviously going to be a bit Wild Harpsy. And it is, you can actually see where the Wild Harps had pulled a lot of their influence from, not the other way around, obviously. But the Cardiacs were, no pun intended, much wilder, much less structured, but still totally structured. And it is such crazy music. in such a good way. I think the phrase I used in the album ranking show was, they attack you with music, and then you say thank you very much. And that was exactly how it felt to me, because they attacked me with music on the night, and I kind of went, oh, don't understand. And a few days later I was going, thank you, that was great. So yeah, a bit of a life changer in that sense. And then the last one that I've picked out is from 2006 at the Glasgow Cat House again, and the headline act was, funnily enough, Y&T, but the opening act was GPS. Okay, my only disappointment was it wasn't at the ABC, because I would like to have seen Y&T and GPS at the ABC. But it was at the Glasgow Cat House, unfortunately. I'm not going to lie. Not going to make it. And GPS, for those who don't know, was what John Payne did after Jeff Downes basically went, I don't know you anymore. I went back to the main guys in Asia and just dumped what was, in my humble opinion, a pretty phenomenal band at that stage. So John Payne took, obviously, himself out on bass and vocals, Guthrie Govan, who people will know from Stephen Wilson, the Aristocats, loads of other things. What a phenomenal guitar player that man is. Roy Okamoto from Spock's Beard on keyboards, Jay Shellen on drums, who's in Styx, I think it is, and he's a variety of different things.
Jay Shellen is actually the drummer from Yes right now.
Yes, excuse me, yeah, absolutely. And he's been in a variety of different things along the way as well, and the guy can play. And they were just a progressive AOR band that deserved to be much more than a footnote in the history of Asia. And that, unfortunately, is what they turned out to be. And they only played, I think, one UK tour. They went and did some shows, I think, in Japan, and didn't do very much else at all after that. So very fortunate to catch them on that very short run of shows that they did. And they were absolutely outstanding. So that's my main ones. I've got some honorable mentions, but I'll let you go, Peter, because I've spoken for at least a week.
Week? Thereabouts. All right, so let's see. All right, so I'm going to throw these out kind of quickly because I do have a bunch of them that I think are noteworthy. So I actually got to see for the first time ever, Robert Plant opened up for The Who, August 4th, 2002 at Madison Square Garden. That was quite notable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Robert Plant solo. What's that?
That's a little weird.
It is a little weird, but I mean, you know, there was a sold out Madison Square Garden. This was like 3 weeks after John Entwistle died. And I remember most people were really fired up to see The Who because it was so soon after that Pino Palladino stepped in to play bass. And I will say I've seen The Who a handful of times over the years. Best show I ever saw. They were just angry and loud, and just, it was an emotional night, and they played every song you could possibly imagine. But Robert Plant was really, really good. And it's like, you know, for those of us who maybe weren't quite old enough to see Zeppelin or even missed out on Robert Plant's solo in the mid 80s, you know, you knew you were seeing rock royalty up there, and he didn't disappoint. So that was pretty cool.
Sorry, Peter, what kind of stuff did he play?
Just a mix of all his solo stuff. Yeah, it was like a greatest hits type of thing. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it was good. Because I mean, around this time, not like he was pumping out albums pretty quickly in the early 2000s. So,
yeah, I was just intrigued because he seems to pretty much ignore the early solo stuff as like it ever happened now.
Yeah, especially now. Yeah, but around this time, because that's like the mid period there. So he was still playing some of those songs, some newish things. I'm trying to remember if he played any Zeppelin that night. I don't remember.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't there. I would suspect not. I have to say.
Yeah, maybe he played one song. Like maybe he played Rock and Roll. I don't know. I'd have to go back and look at
somebody will tell us, I'm sure.
Yeah, but it was really good. I mean, it was just
never seen him.
Great to see him for the first time ever. You know. So one of the bands, you know, Simon was mentioning, you know, these bands that were on like every bill in this time. I also saw like a handful of bands that must have opened up every freaking metal show that this decade. Children of Bodom is one of them. Children of Bodom and Amon Amarth and Into Eternity were on like every bill. Scar Symmetry, Nemec. I mean, these bands here in the States were on every bill in New York City. So, but the first time I caught Children of Bodom, I saw a lot of headline shows from them too. But them and Evergrey opened up for Iced Earth at BB King's in New York City in Times Square on April 29th, 2004. And it was my first time really listening to Children of Bodom and first time seeing them. I thought they were great. because they were a really great live band, especially early on. And I was totally captivated by them. And I really liked Evergrey a lot too, but I was already fairly familiar with their music. So it was cool seeing them live for the first time. But man, Children of Bodom just knocked me on my ass. What do we got? Else we got here? So Frog Cafe.
Oh,
name that might not be familiar with. You may remember them, Steven.
Yeah.
A very cool kind of fusion-y prog band, jam band from Long Island. They opened up for Happy the Man November 13, 2004 at the New Jersey Prog House. And it was actually my second time seeing Happy the Man, but Frog Cafe, I'd actually seen them numerous times after that, and really, really great band. I got to know the guys in the band really well, and they fit really well in it. They got like violin and keyboards and trombone and guitars. It's a really cool band. So that was pretty notable. My first time seeing Mastodon was literally 2 days before the show I just talked about. So November 11th at Roseland Ballroom in New York City, which does not exist anymore. Mastodon opened for Slayer. And as you can imagine, a band opening for Slayer, that's a tough thing to do. And Mastodon at this time were still fairly new, but I had seen Slayer many times in the 80s and 90s. So I went to this show to see Mastodon, and people didn't really seem to give a shit about that, as you can imagine, right? No surprise there, right? People just wanted to see Slayer, but I was there for Mastodon, and I really enjoyed them quite a bit. So I think 2004, that might have been either Leviathan or the album after that. I don't remember. It was early in their career.
Crack the Sky?
It might have been Crack the Sky, or was it Blood Mountain? What's the one that comes before that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it might have been that one. Might have been the third album, actually. But they were really good. I thought they were great. Trying to think what else we got here. So Nevermore opened up for Opeth November 3rd, 2005 at Webster Hall. And I believe that was my one and only time seeing Nevermore. Maybe I caught him once before, but I think that was the first time. And Opeth were great. And I was just starting to get into Opeth at that time, but I had seen Warrell Dane singing for Sanctuary, like 20 years before, well, not quite 20 years before, back in the late 80s. And I thought Nevermore were just absolutely amazing that night. Let's see, what else? Strapping Young Lad, Devin Townsend, opening up for Fear Factory. Yep. And that was actually 5 days after the show I just talked about. I was in New York City constantly in this time period, just seeing shows all the time. And so that was November 8th, 2005, Irving Plaza. I think that was the last time I saw Strapping Young Lad, because I caught them a bunch of times right around that time period before he kind of put the kibosh on that and just went totally solo. How about Journey opening up for Def Leppard? November 27, 2006, PNC Arts Center in New Jersey, outdoors. I thought Journey blew away Def Leppard, and that was with Steve Augeri on vocals.
Okay.
In fact, it was a notable show because it was raining outside the whole day, and Steve Augeri, this was at the end of his tenure with the band, he sounded like shit. This was right before he was on the way out, and drawing a blank on his name. Drummer.
Dean Castronovo?
Dean sang probably half the set and sounded amazing. And, so many of us were sitting there thinking, man, he sounds way better than Augeri. Why don't they just have him be the singer? Because he could do it. So that was quite good. Let's see. Gojira opening up for Children of Bodom and Amon Amarth. I don't remember who headlined that night, whether it was Bodom or Amon Amarth. Doesn't matter. Those two were on every bill I saw throughout that entire decade. So sometimes they open, sometimes they headline. I don't know. That was December 17, 2006 at the Nokia Center in Times Square. And that was my first time seeing Gojira. And quite frankly, I thought they blew both headliners off the stage. They were amazing.
Amazing live.
Really, really good. Really good. Two quick ones. Meshuggah opening up for Ministry. May 1st, 2008 at Irving Plaza, New York City. Really weird bill. Like, I went for Meshuggah because I've never been a Ministry fan. And it was weird because most people there were Ministry fans, and Meshuggah was like the odd band out. Yeah. And they did not even give Meshuggah any lights. They played in complete darkness for like 45 minutes.
See, I don't think that would harm them too much.
I guess not, but I was there to take pictures and everything. I couldn't get a fucking picture. I'm like, I couldn't get any pictures, right? It's like, I went back and looked at everything I took. I'm like,
it's petty as fuck. However, if there's a kind of band that can overcome that, I think that's them.
Yeah, I mean, they were amazing as always. They were really good. And then I stayed for like 3 songs of Ministry because I've never liked them. I said, but I'll stay for a little bit. I had 3 songs in. I was like, all right, I'm out, and I left. That was that.
Yeah, so, well, you know that I chose to count the ceiling tiles instead. So
yeah. All right, and my last one for today will be Simon will like this one. The Outlaws opening up for Lynyrd Skynyrd, June 20th, 2008 at Bethel Woods up in the old Woodstock site, about an hour from my house. I thought Skynyrd were really good, maybe great. The Outlaws were terrific. And this was right around the time where Henry Paul kind of retook over the band again. And so it was basically the Henry Paul band, but with a couple, Outlaws guys and whatnot. And Huey Thompson had just passed away not long before. And I thought they were absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. And that was a really, really great double bill, because when you see like these Southern rock legends, it's great when they have like other Southern rock bands with them. It just makes all the more sense. I've seen Skynyrd with all sorts of other weird bands opening, or, they open for, but it was really cool to see the Outlaws come out, and they gave them an hour. They kicked ass. They ended with Greengrass and High Tides Forever, right? And then Skynyrd comes out and plays, and then they end with Freebird, and you just got all this like epic Southern rock guitar mayhem for, a couple hours there. It was a really, really good night. So that's my last one.
It's interesting you talking about Journey, because I was fortunate enough to see them 3 times in quite quick succession, and a different vocalist every time. Because I saw them with O'Gerry. They played, I think it was a Monsters of Rock or something along those lines at Milton Keynes Bowl. And that was just prior to the issues surfacing, shall we say. So he sounded great, but how much of him we heard? But let's just say he was doing a bit of the Paul Stanleys, for want of a better turn of phrase, at that stage. Not that Paul's doing any of those kind of things unless Eric gets things wrong behind the kit. And then we saw them with Jeff Scott Soto.
Oh, you got to see that. I didn't. Yeah. Wow.
And that to me is, and I understand why it moved on, but that to me was the great missed opportunity, because he was perfect for that gig. Absolutely perfect for it. He just
you know what it is? He's the perfect front man for that gig. I don't know if he has the perfect voice for that gig, and that's why he didn't keep it.
Yeah, he had the voice for the gig, but he didn't have the voice of the classic sound. His versions of all of those classic songs were off the charts. They were absolutely fantastic, and he added a charisma and an energy on stage that, I will be honest and say, has completely overshadowed what's come next for me. Because Arnold is a talented guy, and he is really good on stage. And I've given him a hard time on some of the shows we've done. And it is unfair, because I can't help but judge it against what I think should have. Air quotes, that's twice I've done that. I hate myself for it. But that should have happened. Jeff Scott Soto should have got longer in that band. Arnold Pineda kills it there. He's absolutely brilliant, and he's right for the band, and he's been a great fit. And I think the albums that they've done with him are better than most people think they are, to be fair. But I still would rather see Jeff Scott Soto win the gig, because it was, we walked out, and it was the same person I was at the 3, well, I've seen Journey a couple of times since, but those 3 in quick succession was the same guy I was there with, and we both agreed that Jeff was head and shoulders the right guy for the gig. But there you go, history.
And I will say, for the record, I saw Journey a couple of years before the show I just talked about with Steve O'Gerry. It was in New York City, and he was amazing.
Yeah,
so it's weird how like that voice just failed him very, very quickly.
It's a real shame, because he was a great singer, and he was great with Taiketo for the album he did with them. I think it was at Tall Stories who he was in prior to that, and that's a classic album as well. So yeah, it's a real shame how it kind of went down for him, more than anything else. Maybe it could have been handled differently, who knows? But
yeah, it's hard to say.
Journey are not the most patient with band lineups.
No. Yeah. They're a busy band. They gotta keep the train going, right? Keep the machine going. So I get it. All right, Simon, you got a couple stinkers?
I do. Now, I am nothing if not a performing seal. I am fully aware because I read the comments. Thank you. I read the comments. I know that I'm expected to mention Meatloaf every show, and I know that I'm also supposed to mention the Stranglers every show. But I did in fact see the Stranglers support Blondie in 2008 at Liverpool Echo. Yeah.
No.
We were quite a long way back, and it's fair to say that neither band really projected far enough back to make an impact on me, and that's really unusual because, I don't know if I've mentioned, I really like the Stranglers. 45 minutes of hits, fantastic, good, but neither of them really blew me away. No screens, nothing we expect at an arena gig, and I was just a little bit disappointed. That's just disappointed.
Did you see the comment that it has been requested that you and Martin Popoff rank the Stranglers on?
Yeah, the one person that liked it was me.
Well, I would watch.
Thank you. Martin would love to do that, I'm sure, because I know he's a big fan.
Well, I mean, it wasn't me to comment.
I'm just writing that down, and that appears to be set in stone now. Excellent. Good times. Fantastic.
Well, it'll probably, knowing Martin, it'll probably be like, all right, we'll give our top 5 Stranglers albums, maybe top 10.
They've done like 17 or 18, so just saying. Anyhow, moving along because it is nearly midnight. I saw Cathedral support Cradle of Filth.
Nice.
Cathedral, yes, big fan.
No, they put them in front of. They put them in front of the curtain. In fact, let's take these two together. I saw Cathedral support Cradle of Filth and Tristania support Nightwish at Manchester Academy, and both of them were like just in front of the curtain, like, I can't move.
That's terrible.
I can't do anything. And as I recall, I'm sure it was Cathedral saying, "Goodbye, world. Thank you."
Basically, you saw the drummer's hand through the curtain.
Yeah. I thought, poor fuckers. I'm sure
that's really bad.
Yeah,
everyone looks so uncomfortable.
Never seen that. That's really bad. So,
especially for a great band like that. I mean,
exactly. And there's a time and place for everyone, and that was not their time. It should have been.
Yeah, it should have been.
But just really. Poor individuals.
But there's nothing worse than watching a band who, and sometimes it's just because the main band have got so much stuff on the stage, and they like to run around and they get to each other kind
of going around each other, tripping over mic stands and stuff.
He doesn't half the guys he goes past.
Musically, they were fine, but just they looked so uncomfortable.
That's a real shame.
They really did. And I also want to mention, do you remember previously when some of you, I'm looking at you two, and as we're looking, I'm top right, so Peter's there and you're down there as I'm looking. So I'm looking at you two, and you took the piss out of me when I went to see Limp Bizkit.
Yes.
But I really want to talk about the support act for a minute. The support act were Godsmack.
Oh, okay.
No, definitely. let me tell you my memories of Godsmack, shall we? And I genuinely thought to myself, do you know what? I should go back and listen to Godsmack again today. And then I thought to myself, do you know, I've got all this shit to do with my life that I'd really rather punch myself in the cock. Christ, they really were a massive pile of wank. But, right, I'm sure that my eldest will comment in the comments and say, yes, this is true. All I really remember about them was that the lead singer, Sully Erna, said this roughly between every song. Are you ready? Has anybody got the motherfucking Godsmack CD? I think at the time they'd only got the one motherfucking CD.
And did you have it?
Yeah, I think we actually bought it, so we'd be vaguely familiar with the material, which we were. But it was seriously. This one's on motherfucking Godsmack CD. Old. Yeah, I think must have only played 6 or 7 songs from the motherfucking CD. But I'm thinking like script written by Quentin Tarantino. What's going on? It is really. This is another one from the motherfucking Godsmack CD. Yes, we get it. Thank you. Please let me watch Limp Bizkit in peace. At least Limp Bizkit didn't do anything from the motherfucking Godsmack CD. Yes, I don't remember anything about the music, but I absolutely remember that voice. Sometimes in the middle of the night, I wake up and I hear that motherfucking Godsmack CD. Where's everyone? But I never actually feel the urge to pull it out and listen to it.
Sounds like it was one of those toys that you pull the string.
Simon's going to wake up and his face is going to be at the bottom of the bed. And he's going to be like, "Oh shit!"
Dear Netflix. Yeah. So yeah, no thanks. No. I enjoyed Limp Bizkit more.
Glad you did.
Yeah, I did.
So, is that you done, Simon? Are you done?
Done.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I've spoken that much. I haven't done worst because my worst were all non-entities and shite. So what I've done is I've made an honourable mentions list for other really good ones that I saw because I saw loads and loads this decade. So, 6th November 2006, opening for Opeth at the ABC, I saw Paradise Lost, a band that I'd only ever seen at festivals. And let's just say that slow, grinding, moody doom does not come across at 2 o'clock in the afternoon as it does in a proper darkened venue. So that was a real bonus. The same year, on the 9th of December, I saw Firewind opening for Dragon Force alongside, and they weren't great, but any band that can call themselves All That Remains, because it is such a good thing to say on stage. We are all that remains. That is good. But Firewind were excellent. I saw Iced Earth opening for Heaven and Hell in November 2007. That was with Tim Ripper Owens on vocals. Because I've seen him 3 times, I think, different vocalists every time, because back when Iced Earth were credible, that was what they did. 20th of December 2007, opening for the Wild Hearts, shock horror. I must be on a disclaimer, I've got to mention them at least once a show. It was Wolfsbane, who really, I mean, that's where Blaze Bayley comes into his own on stage. Solo, I love his solo material, but on stage with Wolfsbane, he becomes a man possessed. Woe betide you if you go down the front, because he stares and he stares and he doesn't let you go. And anyone that takes him on will lose. But they know it. It's all in good fun, but he's an intense character on stage when you see him in a small venue. And they were great. He was brilliant. The 24th of February 2008, I saw Ginger Wildheart play acoustic at a place called the Barfly in Glasgow, which is a hole. And they definitely had one of those support acts that, I mean, the guitarist just had no idea who the rest of the band were, and he just didn't care. However, the second band on the bill were meant to be a band called Eureka Machines, who are a small kind of power pop act. Chris Catalyst is the main guy, and he's been in Speed of Destiny. He's helped with the Wild Hearts. He's played with. He's one of these guys. If you turn around, Chris Catalyst will pop up as the safest pair of hands in UK rock. He's like anyone that needs a guitarist or a singer, just someone to kind of hold the fort. He'll learn a set in like 0.2 of a nanosecond. Chris is your man. This was the first time that I saw Chris Catalyst. It was meant to be the whole band. I think one couldn't make the Scottish date. One couldn't get the week off work. This is the level we're talking about here. And it genuinely, Chris told us all this from the stage. So from a 4-man band, it was him up on stage, acoustic guitar. And it should have been a shambles, because it should have been one of these guys that was just going. But he understood how to connect with the audience. We had a laugh. He has such charisma, and he was capable of being that one guy up on stage for half an hour. He played what he said, here's the second best song in the world ever, and went on to do Take On Me by a-ha, where he sang all the parts, played the guitar to it, and played the keyboard parts with his mouth, which was just uproariously ridiculous. It was fantastic. And he said the only way to follow the second best song in the world ever is to play the best song in the world ever. And he went on to play Lineman of the County by Glenn Campbell. That'll do for me. He was absolutely brilliant, so he was. And I have been a firm fan ever since. And anyone that does not know either Eureka Machines or Chris Catalyst, and you like upbeat, happy music with a bit of an edge, he's your man. From there, I had to mention this one, because on the 20th of June 2006, I saw Journey, and I saw Journey with Jeff Scott Soto. But the opening act was a guy, I don't know if you've heard of him, Simon, he was called John Parr.
Yeah. Yes, I think I've heard of him.
Yeah, I think you might have done. And he was definitely the best a man could get that night. He was.
See what you did there.
And yet again, he was one of those guys that was just him and an acoustic guitar on stage. So some of these folk that we came across were names that we knew, but it was still the cheap option of there's a big band on tonight, but we're just going to bring this guy and stick him on a stage. And he kind of bored us a little bit, to be honest with you. I mean, he did the best a man can get, which really, I don't know about anyone else in the world, but in the UK, it's the Gillette advert. And nobody really else in the venue knew it as anything other than the Gillette advert. So you could kind of see people kind of going, why is he playing that advert off the telly? What's he doing? And then, of course, he closed with an Elmo's Fire, and people went.
Did he not do a cover of Oh Well? He usually does.
I think to be fair, he probably did. Yes.
Why are you doing? Why? I
don't know.
Why? I'll be asking that question again in a few shows' time, by the way.
Oh, okay. Yeah, please do. Do you know, it was one of those where we went along thinking, Joe, this will be good. This John Parr, this is bound to be good. Wasn't really. But anyway, Serenity opening for Camelot in 2009 at the Cat House. That was a great double bill. Serenity, where they seemed destined for ginormous things at that stage, and that didn't quite happen for them either. Changed singers too many times and all that kind of malarkey. Still a good band, but they were really...
I saw them once, and they were Sporting Delane, and they were excellent.
Yeah, they were excellent live. And then the last one I'm going to mention, or the last two I'm going to mention, 28th of April 2009, I saw Sweet Savage opening for Saxon at the ABC. Sweet Savage were, of course, although he wasn't going back out with them, they were Vivian Campbell, his first band, a classic Nawabahum band, and they were absolutely great retro fun and much better than I'd anticipated. And they were followed by Doro. The Warlock were the first band I ever saw, because they opened for Dio at the first gig that I was ever at. And I had not a band I listened to a lot, Warlock or Doro, great though they both are. And she really just played a set of greatest hits. She realised that this was a night not to come out and say, here's some things off the new album. She came out and went, do you know, I used to be in a band called Warlock. Would you like to hear some of those songs? I knew them all. It was absolutely brilliant. And it was one of those where you think, I didn't know that I knew all the words to all of those songs, but I did. Yeah. And yeah, so there you go. So that is my whole decade. I just squeeze in lots and lots of bands that I like, because the ones that were shite, nobody would ever have heard of, including me.
All right, my crappy ones. I don't have too many, but a couple that were kind of noteworthy. Ever hear of a band called The Perfect Murder?
No.
Yeah. Really bad, cheesy metalcore band. This was November 28th, 2005 at Irving Plaza in New York City. They opened up for Arch Enemy. And this was a time period where in the early mid 2000s, like every bill would have like 4 or 5 bands on it, especially the metal shows. And you would get one kind of European band, one cheesy American metalcore band, and then another band that was on every other gig that you saw. So A Perfect Murder were another one of these kind of faceless metalcore bands. They were terrible. And this was a perfect night where, you know, Arch Enemy was really the only band. And I believe, trying to think of who else was on this bill. There were a couple other bands that were on this bill that are pretty notable, but it was like, all right, Arch Enemy is going to shine because let's bring out a couple other bands that are way inferior so they look better. I saw that a lot during this decade. 2007, March 4th, Irving Plaza. Again, I was at Irving Plaza all the time around this time. The 69 Eyes opened
Oh, yeah, I like
Cradle
them.
of Filth.
I,
God, they
I,
were
I,
terrible.
a bit of goth and roll. Do you know
Yeah,
what
goth
there
and
was?
roll. Yeah, sorry, I don't get that
The-
goth and roll shit.
Yeah, well, there are very few bands that if you look through, and they are all listed, by the way, people, my list of CDs and records that I have, that I actually have a greatest hits and not much more, that's the 69 Eyes.
Really?
They're good songs. Yeah, I like the good songs. The rest of it, they all sound exactly the same.
Yeah, I kind of don't get it. It's like they're kind of gonna go for this like modern day, like sort of Misfits meets whatever. I don't know. It just didn't do anything for me. And I think Simon mentioned before, like Cradle of Filth here anyway. Whenever you go see a Cradle of Filth show, they always have shitty opening bands. It's like, again, like they're trying to be like, all right, we don't want anybody to outshine us at all. And I think on that Arch Enemy show I was talking about, I think All the Remains were also on that bill, because All the Remains were on every bill I saw for like 5 years straight. It was crazy. Let's go to, let's see, 2009, August 25th at the theater at Madison Square Garden. Coheed and Cambria opened up for Heaven and Hell.
Good band.
Good band, really bad fit. They went over like a lead balloon, man. Just like, and again, they're local guys, and I think they're a pretty good band, but that was just a awful decision to have them open up for that show. They just came across nobody was paying attention, which is a shame, and their style of music just does not, it's hard opening up for Black Sabbath. I mean, let's be real. I've seen Sabbath all throughout my life a ton of times, and really I can't think of too many opening bands that have opened for Sabbath, whether it be the Ozzy era or the Dio era, who actually really went over well, with the exception of a band that I'll talk about the next time we revisit this topic and we go to the next 10 years. But I felt really bad for them that night. I was kind of like, a lot of people like, what's up with this high-pitched whiny voice? What's going on? What's up with this proggy music? Why are they playing tonight? I'm like, well,
Yeah, it's interesting, because the word that came to mind, and it's not one that you would really use for Sabbath, is Coheed and Cambria are quirky.
They are.
And quirky as a support act. That's a tough sell, isn't it, really?
Especially when you're talking, Heaven and Hell or Black Sabbath as the headliners, right? Yeah, you don't want quirky. No. You don't want quirky. You want someone to come out there for 30 minutes and just bludgeon you with some kind of cool metal and get off the stage, but not this kind of like, artsy fartsy thing that they do, which, a lot of people like, but not Sabbath fans. Yeah, not Sabbath fans. The last one I'm going to mention, and I'm this comes with an asterisk, because I'm not quite sure who opened this show or who headlined this show, but all I know is the band I'm going to talk about were awful. And if they actually were the headliners this night, this is like the biggest mistake known to man to have them headline the show. But it was December 18, 2007 at Irving Plaza again. I think Job for a Cowboy, which is the worst name for a metal band in the history of worst names for metal bands, opening up for Behemoth. But I have this sneaking suspicion that Behemoth actually opened for them, which makes no sense at all, because Job for a Cowboy were never anything at all, but they were so bad. And again, another one of those bands that were on like every bill for a couple of years. And you know what? They may have actually headlined that night. I don't know. I really don't know, because on the ticket stub, it just says both names. So I'm like left wondering, I'm like, who actually opened that show? I don't know. If it was Job for a Cowboy, they sucked. Behemoth opened, Behemoth were great, and Job for a Cowboy sucked. So yeah, they sucked in either instance. So I don't know, but it was just, they're terrible band with the worst name ever.
I don't know them at all.
No, they were on Metal Blade for a while.
Were they?
Yeah, they had cool album covers, but then the name of the band and then the music, you listen to the music, I'm like, it's kind of like run-of-the-mill, like metalcore death metal, like melodic death metal type of thing, but like with this tough guy attitude, right? Just no good.
I need to check them out, because you've sold them that well that I need to know how bad.
Yeah, give them a listen. I don't know. I always thought they were terrible, but again, a really weird pairing, because that was the thing with Behemoth there, because at this time period, because Behemoth, who were basically like a black metal band, were being paired with every other type of a band that was metal, extreme, like Behemoth were on these bills with metalcore bands. They were on these bills with death metal bands. They were on these bills with straight metal bands. They didn't know what to do with Behemoth because they were getting very big here, but you really couldn't do like a whole black metal bill because no one was going to stuff like that. So like Behemoth and Dimmu Borgir, who were, both doing fairly well at this time, were just getting thrown on these really weird bills with these other bands that just totally did not fit. But that's what they had to do because they had to book them tours, right? So they had to throw someone on there. So they figured, well, we'll throw some of these up and coming metal bands that really don't sound like them, but we'll do it anyway. So you had these really just like head scratcher bills for a number of years. So it's, you would see like Dimmu Borgir with Amon Amarth, you would see them with Cradle of Filth, you would see them with All That Remains, you would see it was just like none of this makes sense, but that's what they did for a while. So yeah. Anyway, I just noticed it's getting darker and darker in here. It's like, what's going on, man? Late in the day, right? Because it is only 3:30 Eastern Standard Time on Saturday, right? So getting dark a little early. Maybe it's going to rain out. I don't know. Who knows? Very strange.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, I'm
break that fourth wall, right? Yes. Anyway, there you have it, everybody. Some of our favorite and least favorite opening acts of the early 2000s. So let us know some of the good ones and the bad ones you saw in that time period down in the comments below. But stay tuned. Next week, by popular demand, our favorite and least favorite albums by Kiss. So all of you Kiss lovers, you're going to enjoy this one. All of you Kiss haters, you're going to enjoy this one. So stay tuned for that next week here on the UK Connection. Visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube. All together.
All the damn time.
That's right. Simon's not participating today. That's okay. All the damn time.
I did. I said it.
He still just refused to speak to me, I think.
It's because you're so dream evil.
But see, the truth comes out. The truth comes out. You can't hide anything on this show. Can't do it.
No, I'm not even going to hold my glass up tonight.
I'm amazed. I actually have like a quarter left. Yeah. I know. I saw Simon take his last swig like 20 minutes ago. Well,
I'm looking for 3/4 of the show and I still finished mine.
All gone. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next week here on the UK Connection. For Simon Bray and Steven Reid, I am Pete Pardo. Have a good rest of the weekend. Don't forget tomorrow, album homework assignment starring Sydney Taylor and Lynn Versace. That's going to be a fun one, so you don't want to miss that. And we'll start off the work week with Hudson Valley Squares on Monday. So take care, everybody. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye-bye.